Hello.
Hi, okay.
To be here.
I did it.
Super. So yeah,
This is good.
welcome. Good to see you
Thank
again.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you all also for joining us today for this talk with Mrs. Sujatha Jaishankar on mindful listening. These talks are part of Aroha Montessori Center for co-learning activities, where we invite specialists, experts to talk about content or concepts related to the child, where we hope to spread the word out and see how best we can cater to this child and see how best we can help the child have the child in himself or herself still and also flourish. So this is just an attempt as educators and parents, and for all of you as educators and parents to see how we can help the child. To introduce our speaker today, Mrs. Sujatha Jaishankar is an educator, writer. Just like the many notes in her song, she wears several caps. She's a content writer. She's an educator. She's a storyteller, a songwriter, script writer. There are choreographer. There are many more to that. She's had several years of experience as a teacher. She's worked for over 20 years at the HNC, the Head Start Learning Center.
10 years.
10 years there. Okay. But
10 years,
20
yes.
odd years as an educator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super.
Yeah.
So, and her method of reaching out to the child is very unique, which you will see today in this talk, and also when you follow her on her Notes and Lines YouTube channel. She reaches out to the child through stories and songs which are very unique, and they kind of stay with the child, and that's how she's created this niche. And the thinking, out of the box thinking, she attributes to her background as a KFI parent and her teaching experience at HNC. So, Sujata ma'am, we are super happy to have you here. Our team is really excited to have you here
Thank you.
as one of our speakers, this as part of co-learning activities of Aroha. And we're also excited to tell you all that we're going to be setting up the center soon. We've started setting it up and looking forward to opening up the center, physical center, as soon as possible. So hopefully we'll have you there and have all the educators and parents who are listening to us today maybe come over there and listen to you live.
We'll
In
make
person,
music
I mean.
together.
Yes, let's make music together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And on that note, maybe we can start off today's discussion, a talk, a conversation today on mindful listening. Now, as much as academics is important, as much as getting children to learn about life skills is important, we feel one of the main fundamental life skills is listening. So you, in your work, you do talk about listening as one of the fundamental skills, and your work nurtures the creative thinking and communication. And I personally feel that a foundation to all this is definitely listening. It's only through listening that you can then develop effective communication, then develop means of learning a new concept.
Yes.
So from your experience and your perspective, uh, how do we help children build this skill, and why is it important for children to have this?
So yes, I mean, to me, listening is probably the first skill that sets other skills into motion, like thinking, creative thinking, ideating, retaining, recalling, reproducing, communication. None of these skills, according to me, can fall in place if we don't nurture listening. And I think this is something that we need to focus on as much as we do reading and writing at a young age. So when I'm, say, narrating a story, or when you're singing a song, you're employing all your senses to pay attention. When you ask a question in the middle of a story, unless a child has not been listening, eliciting a response that makes sense in the story, or for a child to come up with an idea that he or she is connecting with his past experiences when a story is happening. These things tell you that active listening is happening. So songs, stories, poems, they're all tools that we can use to nurture all of this, to nurture listening, which then in turn paves the way for all the other skills to come in place. Thinking, creative thinking, ideating, for all of it to come. So for me, this is a realization that came during my years in Head Start. I mean, I've spent 10 beautiful years in Head Start, and the principal of the school, Mrs. Sudha Mahesh, she's my mentor, because she had this wonderful space for us to create. Because her ethos, her principle was that learning must be made a very enjoyable process for a child. So you could be delivering the same concept, same learning concept to a child, but you found different ways of exposing that concept, presenting that concept, so that the child enjoys the process of learning. So it was like there was just a creative surge that was happening during the time when I was working there. So we created workbooks, we created sheets, we created songs, we created stories. If it worked, we kept it. If it didn't work, we let it go. So this was a kind of background in which I think I started developing, because I spent 10 years under her, and that kind of paved the way for the way I think. And when I started on my own, when I started doing freelancing around 2005, it just made tremendous sense to me to use songs and use stories to nurture these skills in children. So that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's wonderful. Because I mean, this is an aspect of education that many of us kind of, put it in the background, right? In the sense that stories and songs are only when, okay, let's spend some time together, or let's fill in those gaps between our periods, or, when we have these classes. So that's how most of us probably have been exposed to stories and songs. But just like as you were speaking, they are tools of learning, aren't they? I mean, they are, and they are so appealing to the child and to the adult as well. So, so apart from building vocabulary and enriching vocabulary, as we say, stories and songs are tools for learning. And we can put in the information that we want to transfer to the child through these stories and songs, right? So how does one go about that? Like, that's probably the crux of your work. But,
It is.
Yeah.
So, so when I started, I did a storytelling program called Funda Fun at home for about 10 years. And so it was for children between 4 and 7, 4 and 8. That was the age group I wanted to work with, and an ideal age group to kind of look at building all these skills in children that I firmly was convinced was important. So I kind of turned to the animal kingdom, because there's such a, I can't tell you the variety of beautiful creatures that are out there that we should expose our children to, So it was so exploring in the animal kingdom, found creatures that were interesting, mammals, birds, insects, whatever. And the story that I used to share with the children usually was based on a quirky attribute of of a creature. For example, with the octopus, it was about I think, how he can use his camouflage. He can change the color and texture of his skin. That was really remarkable. He can regrow a limb. So like this, each creature literally has got something that's very unique about it. And that would be the focal point around which I would try to build a very simple story. It was not the story was great shapes, but through the process of narrating the story, I would weave in facts, share a little bit of information so that children would register some information also about the creature when the story was being told. And then, of course, after the story, a small discussion as to what was nice, what was not nice, what was liked, what was not liked, or could there have been some other ending to the story? Could there have been some other aspect that probably was not, we did not look at? So these things were natural progressions during story time. Sometimes one would just share the facts without necessarily weaving it into the story. Like I do Merry Spin now as part of Notes and Lines. It's the same concept as I was doing in Funda Fun, but now I call it Merry Spin. So we introduced the giraffe. The topic of the day was giraffe, and we wanted to share some very interesting information. Now, the giraffe is a creature that our children already know. So it kind of made sense to find out what is it that children already knew about the giraffe that they could share, which they did. And after that was done, one introduced a few more facts about the giraffe, which is that he has an incredibly long tongue, so long that it can actually go and clean his ears. And it's a kind of a blue, gray, purple mix of all these colors. We were able to find a beautiful clip on how the giraffe drinks water. It can't just bend its neck to drink water. So when it goes to a water hole, the giraffe has to position himself. He has to slowly take his front limbs out, one step at a time, and then bend his neck down to drink water. Now, when the giraffe does this, that is when he is at his most vulnerable point to predators. So usually a giraffe will not drink water alone. They will be in a group or in a pair where one is looking around, keeping watch while the other drinks. So we actually found a clip where we could show the children all this and we could talk about it.
Wonderful.
And later on in the session, when there was a small artwork that the children had to do about the giraffe, all these facts came into play in their drawings. Amazing. So it's information sharing it's very much a part of every session that happens, because there's always something new that we want to share. The idea is basically to expand a child's horizon of learning. Right. I mean, it should be like ripples, endless ripples. We should just keep adding to it.
Right.
So so this is pretty much how information facts play a role in the stories that we share.
That's amazing.
It keeps changing it according to the character, according to the creature we are doing, and also to bring in that element of unpredictability in how the class is going to be planned out. Otherwise, it becomes very predictable. If you're going to do a song, you're going to do a story, and the story is going to be like this, then we're showing, then you want to break that that planned expectation that a child might come with to the class by rearranging the order a little bit, doing it a little differently, so that we keep the interest level high.
That's nice. So as an educator, you would do a lot of research then, I mean, from all that you've shared just now.
Yes.
So there's a lot of research you're going through, and then that's how you're presenting it in a very appealing, fun way for the child.
Definitely.
And it's interesting because even for us as adults, when we think about stories and songs, they are memories. So they stay with us, don't they? I mean, when you've heard a song growing up, now if you listen to the tune, you're automatically singing it. Subconsciously, the lyrics are coming to you. So in that sense, learning about animals, which is your forte, learning about animals.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Learning about animals, or in that same sense, applying the same logic to other concepts as well. So through stories and songs may stay much more longer with the children.
Yeah.
You know?
That was a discovery that kind of happened even when I was in Head Start. Because we were working when Sudhaka started the school. She started with preschool. That's how I met her when I enrolled my younger one in Head Start, and then eventually I joined her. And one of the things was that since the whole idea of the way we were approaching learning to a child was to make it enjoyable, make it a delightful learning experience. Songs and poems kind of automatically came. They found their presence, and it was always nice to convert a learning concept into a song form because, as you rightly said, it stays in memory much longer. For the child. So that's how it started. And yes, I completely agree. Putting anything in a song form, in a rap form, in a poem form, I think it's just a very happy process of learning for a little one. That's
Absolutely.
all.
Absolutely. So I'm actually very tempted to ask you to sing one maybe for us, because I'm sure listeners here are probably looking forward to listening to you sing one. So if I may request.
Yeah, sure. So I'd like to do this one about the koala from Australia, the marsupial. And I distinctly remember why I wrote the koala song, because it's got a decided preference for the eucalyptus leaves. Eucalyptus leaves is what forms part of its diet. And I think we were introducing trees. We were doing plants and trees, I think, at that time. And I just wanted to find a way of introducing the trees that we have here, the trees that I see around me. That's how this whole song evolved. So I'll sing it for you. Have you heard of the koala? It eats the leaves of the eucalyptus tree. It won't eat any other kind of leaf, just the leaves of the eucalyptus tree. It says no to the neem, no to the mango, no to the leaves of the banyan tree. It says no to the tamarind, no to the coconut, no to the leaves of the frangipani.
Lovely. Thank you so much. So it's wonderful that you want to talk about the plants and trees around us, but you bring in something from somewhere else to connect it. So this is
yes, it was quite nice the way the song turned out. It's just, I think, I truly believe things happen when you have thoughts and the universe conspires to make all of this happen. And I've had many experiences in my life where I've kind of truly convinced you want something, something happens. So I don't remember how the link happened to bring the koala in and introduce our trees, but somewhere it just happened, and then it really fitted in so well, because here you have this very particular marsupial who will eat only one kind of leaf, and then the song is all about tempting him. Do you want to have this and you want to have this? And he says, no, I don't want any of those. So there used to be a lot of action with the children. No, no, and no, and so we put in a lot of drama into the song, and then it's like it's set in there for life.
It's there, absolutely.
Yes.
It's amazing even for an educator when an educator uses your song. So I know this is about, the background for this song is you wanted to introduce the trees of, the trees that are around the child. But there's so much more the educator can do for children beyond this song. right?
Yes.
So you're just, you're kind of going into so many directions. You can talk about the koala, you can talk about Australia, you can talk about the eucalyptus tree, talk about the geography, talk about the habitat,
Yes.
the other animals
Yes.
in that habitat. And then coming to our own
Absolutely.
trees, the different types of trees, then the leaves.
Yes.
I mean, I cannot imagine how much you can do with a child with just one little song,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes. So I think that's one of the biggest the advantages of the songs which are up there on Notes and Lines. I mean, I think we've got something like about 38 or 39 songs. I'm very grateful only to the pandemic for one reason, because it truly brought me out of this technological challenge that I find myself in. I've been writing for over 20 years. Okay, I've been writing songs and poems and stories for children for over 20 years, and I had all these songs and poems with me. And truly, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, I wouldn't have even thought in terms of starting the Notes and Lines, the YouTube channel, and then getting into social media, because you want to share more facts, you want to share more things with parents, with educators, and hopefully it will disseminate down to children. So that's how all the content that we have up in Notes and Lines. Let me put it this way. If I were a teacher in a school, I would surely pick on these songs.
Yes.
Because there is some, I can make it enjoyable, and I can still introduce an element of learning to a child. So it's all up there now, and I just want to keep adding all these songs that I have, which I want to put up, poems, stories, with trying to do work as fast as we can and try and get everything up. But yes, they are very good supplementary tools. It's not a replacement for a learning. It's a good learning aid.
Absolutely.
And you can do, I think, wonderful things with it. And most of the songs, I think, would lend themselves to multiple uses. Like the koala, as you said, you could talk about marsupials, you could talk about environment, you could talk about continents, you could talk about food. You could talk just about the eucalyptus tree, for example. I just discovered recently there are over 700 kinds of eucalyptus trees. And there is one which is called the rainbow eucalyptus tree. Please go look it up. It's like you have a vertical rainbow on earth. It's beautiful. And I discovered it very recently. So there's so much that can be done.
Absolutely. And there's so much learning for us as parents and educators as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think definitely. Yeah.
I think that's all of us who work with children, we hold a very privileged position. And also this is something that I learned very early in Head Start. It's not easy being an educator, being a teacher, being a facilitator, whatever you want to call it. It carries a position of responsibility. You are actually in a position where you can or you do mold a young mind. It's quite scary also to think of it like that, So how best can you do it?
Yeah.
How best can you help or give the right inputs, the kind of inputs you want to give, so the mind, that this young child who's there in your care will grow into a beautiful person,
Make that journey joyful and
Yes.
pleasant.
Yes.
What best than stories and songs and poems?
Absolutely.
I'm also curious about how children react to these songs and stories and poems that you offer to them. How do they come back to you? Or, I mean, right in class, you did talk about active listening, but do they kind of mull over them and then they come back to you? And have you had any experiences with children?
So one of the things that we did that happened in Funda Fun, which was, I would say, it was an accidental, very good thing that happened, is that children would carry an activity home. You know, I would have on the topic of the day, there would be a worksheet. It could be a simple craft or a simple artwork. Um, it was a very tangible take home from the session, you know, and children loved that. Children loved taking that worksheet home. And there were a few occasions when I didn't have my worksheet ready to give it to them, and they gave me help. It's not fair, auntie. You can't do this. Where is my worksheet, auntie? I want to take it home, that kind of thing. So, what happened was that there were times when parents used to come back with feedback. You know, children used to say that I took this to school to show it in my show and tell. I've had parents actually who came back and told me, you know, I didn't know this creature existed. The okapi, I remember, was one of them. The okapi is related to the giraffe. That was a discovery, and it's I've fallen in love with the okapi. It's such a beautiful creature. And I'll come back to the okapi as well. So I remember a parent actually coming back and telling me, is this creature for real? Because the activity sent home was a coloring sheet of the okapi, because it's very distinctive in its physical appearance, you know. And so there was learning happening, I think, for parents, because their children were going back home and sharing the sheet they took home, made it possible for a conversation to happen. You know, if a parent picked on it. I really wouldn't know what happened when they went home. As far as I was concerned, it was not homework. It was not mandatory. I never wanted that for the children to bring it back. It was just a sense of taking something from class, taking it home. Okay. So there were occasions when parents would come back, and there were children who would bring the sheets the next class and show what they had done. It would be part of their show and tell that we would do in the class that they would want to talk about. There were occasions when children mentioned that they had taken it to their schools and they had shown it to their classmates. But one interesting thing that happened quite recently when with regard to the okapi, see, the okapi is related to the giraffe. They are from the same family, although they look completely different. And the okapi is found in Africa. So there was this child who was doing continence in school. So when they were discussing Africa, this little one said to his teacher that, you know, the okapi is found in Africa. Now, I think to me, this is the greatest thrill of all, because somewhere the fact has got registered. The little one is making his own connections. And in a totally different environment, in a totally different setup, in a totally different time, he's able to recall and say that, okay, we're doing Africa. Oh, I remember the okapi is there. You know, so these are things which have happened. I don't know, I think in the Montessori world, whether you would call it an explosion or what it is, but it's a great thrill. It's a great thrill that a child is able to make connections. Yeah. Then you know that listening has happened, retention has happened, you know, it has stayed there. It's got imprinted. And it's also been reproduced. Yeah. So it's like, you know, the whole circle is full. The whole cycle is full.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pretty wonderful.
I mean, yeah, children, we had one of my mentors was also sharing some time back where she said she was giving the great story to one group of children. And there was this child who was sitting by himself and doing his own work. And she was giving the whole story. And suddenly there was something very interesting, some fact about dinosaurs or something. And this child suddenly comes, and so he's listening the whole time. Suddenly comes and says, "Oh, this is the one you're talking about," and then goes back to work again. So, you know, the connections that they make, and you know, they are actively listening. Children are actively listening. Yes. But how much of it is retained? So then work like your work kind of helps them retain that, you know, that fact, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's wonderful when children, you know, they come back to you with so much, or they're taking it back again to the rest of the people in their sphere. But is that where you find your motivation to continue working in this, in the world that you work in?
I think I'm kind of addicted to exploring the animal world. I've been doing it now for a long time.
Yeah.
And there is so much of joy in that discovery. Okay? I'm still discovering new creatures, which just goes to show how amazing the world is that we live in. Okay? In fact, one of the things that we are trying to do with social media is also to use it in a manner where we can share information. So we're doing things like Fact to Fight Friday. We did a bird series. The idea is just to share something about the world that this world that we live in, and we're sharing with so many creatures. But I'd like to share this incident with you. This happened sometime in my 40s. Okay, so I've done a lot of projects for organizations outside. I've been freelancing from 2005. So there was this one project where I was given a set of cards, nursery rhyme cards, to record and to give it back so that it could be used by the organization. So I was given the set of about 30 cards. And the first card I picked up when I came home and I pulled out of the packet was, I don't know if you've heard of this rhyme called Solomon Grundy. Have you by any chance heard of it? It's one of the most depressing rhymes you could ever come across. Okay. It basically is supposed to teach, I'm thinking now as an adult, I'm thinking that it probably teaches the days of the week. But it goes like this. It goes like Solomon Grundy, born on Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, ill on Thursday, worse on Friday, died on Saturday, buried on Sunday, and that is the end of Solomon Grundy. Okay? Now, I also remember learning this as a child in school and enjoying it a lot, and I would do it in a sing-song way. I remember it so well. Solomon Grundy, born on Monday. I would do it like that. But in my 40s, thinking was totally different. And I was actually furious that a poem that I had learned 40 years ago in school was still being taught to children. And my father-in-law was alive at that time, and Papa was my mentor in many ways. He wanted me to do work for children, and as per him, I was not moving fast enough. Yes, and I was thinking I was moving fast enough in trying to do things, but he would always keep prodding me. And I remember going to him. He was in his 80s at that time, and I remember going and showing this card to him and saying, "Appa, look, we're still doing Solomon Grundy. I learned this in school 40 years ago." And then he said, "Suja, what are you talking? I learned it in school 80 years ago."
Yes, I remember my mom singing this as well.
So, if 80 years down the line, we're still teaching our children the same thing, something's wrong somewhere. I want to break this. That's all. I just feel our children deserve so much more. And I think we should give children variety. You go to a shop, you want to buy something, you really would think twice about buying something similar that another person has. We want something that's unique. We want something that's the latest. It makes you feel good. Then why should we go back to what is already there, time tested? Why in this aspect? So I think that's where all these songs, all these poems, whatever is there, it just stems from that feeling that, we should give our children more. And if it's there, we can take it and we use it and we share it, we refine it, we change it a little bit, and then we present it to the children, and then we are learning. It's just, it's great.
More enjoyable, for sure.
Yeah.
No, in that sense, now that you brought it up, there are so many nursery rhymes which are depressing. and which actually do not make the context for the child at all. There's, so in that sense, when you give children what touches their heart, then you're reaching them more directly, you're reaching them more effectively. And then you see the process where you shared, they go into their classrooms or into their families and they're sharing what they
Yeah, yeah.
do.
I think that's it's wonderful. I think because ultimately, what are we doing? We are only sharing knowledge. You're kind of expanding what the it's like the ripples in a pond. It's endless. We can keep giving. We can keep giving. We should keep giving, and then children will pick on it. They will, and then they will use it in their own time, in their own space. But at least you know that you're bringing in something new. And it was very important for me that in every class I introduce them to something new. It really was important to me, and in that process I think I have learned a lot. The learning has been tremendous. I think I'll always be grateful for the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
which is
And you're doing
creating for children.
Absolutely. I mean, your work speaks for itself, or rather, I would say, sings for itself. There's so much out there, and like you said, I mean, it'll be great if educators and parents pick on that and then
Yes, please.
use it. And that's, I mean, which is already theirs. But then, if an educator or a parent wanted to kind of reinvent this wheel or write something on their own, would you be happy to share some suggestions probably to educators and parents, or even children for that matter, on how to kind of put your thoughts together? Because I mean, when we listen to your songs, we see the range. You're talking about automobiles, you're talking about animals, you're talking about trees. So how does one put those thoughts together to kind of help children learn effectively?
So one of the things that I do before I write a song, or I have no idea how it's going to evolve. Honestly, I don't know when I found a creature that I want to share with the children and reading up about that particular creature. I'm just writing down the points, bullet points, or maybe creating just a web of words, just putting down what I feel is unique about that creature, or what I want to share, what I think should be the sharing that comes about that creature to the child. And so I have all the raw material here with me in terms of all the points. And one of the things that I think I learned over time, and I truly believe this is a skill. It's not, I don't, it's nothing else. It is to be able to kind of think a little bit in rhyme. So this is where all your family of words, 3-letter words, 4-letter words, they all come into play over here, because you already have them. You've already learned them. All the family of words that you go bad hat, mad, bad, fat, sad. You can go through the whole thing. So look at how can the last words, how can I arrange the words so that the last words end in rhyme? Sometimes it's like the first and the second word will rhyme. The line, the last words in the first and the second line will rhyme. Sometimes it will be the second and the fourth, or the first and the third, something like that. It rhymes. Then there are always, if I find I'm struggling with that and I'm kind of not able to fit it into a rhyme, you can always bring in sounds like woohoo, yay, just to be able to kind of give it a little bit of rhythm.
Yes.
To be able to get it into a meter where when you are saying it or you're singing it, it kind of follows a rhythmic pattern.
Right.
And simple words. It's always simple words. It's no big words. And this is a place where I have really found, I've embraced nursery rhymes as my friend. because the tunes can be used.
Correct. So they're
The
very familiar.
Tunes of known songs. It could be happy when you're happy and you know it. It could be boogie boogie, or known songs that children already know. And nursery rhymes works really well here because everybody knows, parents know, everybody knows. If you can start fitting in a known tune to the words you have a song. Yeah. It's honestly, it's not a skill. I mean, sorry, it's not. If you ask me, am I doing something great? I would say no. It's like with any skill that you learn where you train your mind to think in a certain way, that I think is what is needed. Just to train your mind. And after a time, it kind of comes automatically because the mind is just thinking in a certain pattern. You can try it. That's all it takes, actually.
You're being very humble, but I'm sure, I mean, you need to.
No. And I'm not being humble. I'm being very, very frank. It's. I'll tell you where the thing is. The thing lies in looking at when you see something that you think is interesting for a child, and keeping in mind your children are all, in the age group of 5 to 8. Bringing it down, scaling down the language, scaling down how you want to present it. What do you want to share?
Yeah.
That is a challenge. That's where you are really thinking as an adult, because you are looking at what is it that you're comfortable sharing. And I like all my stories to be happy. I'm really not comfortable with bringing in dark stories or bringing in stories which have dire consequences or something like that. I'm not very comfortable with that at all. I would like my stories to teach a value, teach a good habit, those things definitely, yes. And weave in facts as and where the story permits, but it has to be a fun experience for the child. At the end of the session, I want children to go away with this feeling that, yes, I had a good time with Sujanti in class.
Yes.
So the challenge lies in looking at what do you want to convey? How do you want to convey? What are the words you can employ that will make learning easy, make it simple? Then you kind of arrange it together.
Right.
And that's where the thinking and rhyme helps. And that comes. It's not difficult. I promise you it's not difficult. It's just thinking in a certain way.
I think it's something that we all
I've been doing it now for a long time. 20 years is quite long.
Yeah, 20 years is, that's quite a long time, but there's always somewhere to start. So I think that's where educators and parents can start.
Yeah. But so at this point, when you are looking, when say parents and educators, teachers are looking to write songs, this is something that I want to share with parents in particular. Okay. If you take a step back, say you're creating a song, you are with your child, and you are looking at, you have something, you're maybe talking about the tamarind tree or the coconut tree, and you say, okay, let's try and put it together. And then you write whatever, you've got your points, you've noted down your points, and both you and your little one are working together to see how you can make it into something. That moment that you're sharing where you are actually actively engaging with your little one is I can't tell you how important that is. See, my children are grown up now, they're adults. Okay. What you are actually doing when you're actively creating that moment with your little one, and it could be reading a book, it could be sorting out seeds, it could be, I don't know, doing a jigsaw puzzle, or it could be just coloring. I color one box, you color one box, let us color together and see what, it could be anything. But that time that you are creating with your little one, you're actually building a foundation for the future. I'll tell you where I'm coming from. So I told you earlier, right at the beginning, Sudhaka was one of my mentors. She is my mentor, principal of HLC International. I mean, she taught me everything. I was an open book and she filled up all the pages. Seriously. But her husband, Mahesh Anna, I remember him telling me once, and I was a young mother at that time. My kids were one was in primary and the other one was in middle school. And they're both very, I think any year in school, whether it's primary, middle or high school, they're challenging in their own ways.
Right.
I remember him telling me that, Suja, your child coming and telling you he has something very happy. Some happy news he has to share is very good. Okay. He also must have the comfort level to come and tell you, Amma, I goofed. I made a mistake. He must have that comfort level within him, that and utmost confidence that yes, I can come and tell my parents I have made a mistake. I have goofed big time. I have, done something terrible, and know that, my parents have got my back. Okay. Now, I so strongly believe, and this I'm sharing now as a parent, okay, not just as an educator or anything. I'm sharing as a parent because, as I told you, my kids are adults now. So I've gone through the whole range of growing up with them. It's so vital to have that communication channel open with your children at every given point of time in your life. And when they are young, you're spending a lot of time with them, and as they keep growing up, they will become more and more independent. And, you will find that those moments when you really can get together and do something may not be so often, so much. It may not happen so often as it is happening now. So these kind of things, being actively engaging together, whether it's a song or a poem or a story or whatever it is, you're actually building a foundation for the future. In making sure that, your children, that they know they can come to you at any point. For me, that is far more vital than, how to write a song or how to write. We're just creating these pockets to make engagement happen. I'm sorry if I'm too deep, but you've really given me a very perfect opportunity to share something that I so strongly believe in. So
no, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I mean, the entire reason for this talk was to talk about songs and stories and poems as tools of learning. But when you brought out this mindful listening, as the hook for us to talk about, it makes so much sense now, right? I mean, we are using all these as tools, but unless as parents and educators, we listen actively with children and we listen to them actively or engage with them actively, how are they going to nurture that skill of listening as well? How are they going to build it in themselves? So this is wonderful that you're sharing right now that, engage with your child actively, even if it's a jigsaw puzzle. So talk to them and then, and then story songs and poems are of course tools, but then you're writing them together. And that kind of comfort level or keeping those channels open of communication, I think that's more of a skill that we have for life then with each other.
Absolutely.
That bonding that we have.
It will also, I think, it gives the space because it's just a space of engaging on something together. There's no purpose, or let me put it this way, the purpose of doing that is only to spend time, to engage in that. You're actually also creating the opportunity for you to get a glimpse into your child's world. Yes. Because some comment the little one will make, something he will say or she will say, that will make you think, oh, okay, this happened. Oh, I didn't know about it. You're actually creating that opportunity, I think, for you to get a glimpse into what's happening in your child's life. Absolutely. Which I think is very important. which I think is very important.
I think, yeah, now that you say it, the most profound conversations happen when you're doing the most mundane things. No?
Absolutely, yes.
And
Yes.
so I think that,
You
and the
couldn't have
crux,
put it better.
and the crux of it is all mindful listening, isn't it? So it's all about
Being there, yes.
being there, just
Being there and listening.
that's it. That's it. I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
this with us. I think I'm just going to keep the comments on because we are almost at 5:22, so that if listeners have any questions or anything to share, then we can maybe take that on.
Sure, sure.
So if there are any questions, please put them in the comment box or in the question box, and I'll pass it on. I don't know if it's too much to ask you for another song, but just that when you, I just love to
You
listen to your
want,
songs and I think, yeah.
okay. Um, I'll give you an action song about the okapi.
Okay, great.
My favorite. Okay. So this is an action song that so from India, if we want to go to Africa, we can go to Africa in two ways.
Hmm.
You can go by plane or you can go by ship or boat. Okay, so this song is just a little take on that. Okay, so the okapi is saying, so this is a song with the okapi. It says, you wish to see me the okapi, get into a plane and fly. Zoom, 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 zoom. Cross the big ocean all the way to Africa. Zoom, 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 zoom. And in the forest, if you look and see, hiding in the bushes, you will find me the okapi. You wish to see me the okapi, get into a ship and sail. Splish, splash, splish, splash. Cross the big ocean all the way to Africa. Splish, splash, splish, splash. And in the forest, if you look and see, hiding in the bushes, you will find me the okapi.
Super, super. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Please do share the link for Notes and Lines if you can.
Yes, definitely.
And
Yeah.
yes, and I would really, my day would be totally made if all parents, all educators, whoever has been here today, please visit Notes and Lines. Just look at what is there and just embrace everything and feel free to take it into your worlds with your little ones. That would be what I would like and I want.
Yeah, I think all of us, I think, need to tap in those resources.
Please,
And
please do,
yeah.
please do. Just take it and use it. It's all there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
My
on
pleasure.
behalf of Sudha, Sindhu, and I wish you many, many, many more years of songs, stories, and poems so that all of us also benefit as parents and educators.
Absolutely. We'll make music happen. We'll make songs happen.
Yes.
We'll do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
For your time. We'll definitely share the notes and lines.
My pleasure. Please do. Yeah. And thank you so much for inviting me to have this conversation with you. It's my very first, so it's very special.
There's always a first time you said, so this is not the last.
Yes.
Yeah. And the pleasure's all ours. So thank you very much once again.
Let's make it mutual.
Yes.
Make it mutual. It was a good time. I enjoyed myself. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye.
Right. Thank you all for joining in, and I hope you had a great time. Please do check out Notes and Lines on YouTube and dig into those songs, stories, and help yourselves and your children. It's going to be
Yes,
a fun time to help children
absolutely.
learn joyfully and yourselves also. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.